So before I even start this discussion, I'd like to thank Livingston for setting this very interesting initiative, and the whole alumni community for making an effort to share with you information that is actually very vital. So a little bit about me. For maybe most of you don't know me because probably you came in much later when I'd already finished my undergraduate. So I was in Chuka in around 2011 to 2015, 2014, yeah, 2015, because we had this extra long break, so we had to leave university much earlier than any other of the programs. Yeah, so I was in BSc Econ and Start. Yeah, for most of you, I think Livingston was already out of the university by the time we were coming, so he's much older than me. Yeah. So one thing that I need to kind of discuss as we go through is that I'll be sharing some of my experiences that I've gone through with the application process in terms of scholarships and how to survive, of course, in the UK. I've had a lot of discussion that has been going around, which was on scholarships in the US, which sort of is the same application process actually applies for the UK. But maybe with some slight differences, which I'm going to kind of highlight as we go on. So maybe a little bit about me. So I'm currently finally a PhD student in economics. I'm mostly interested in applied econometrics, with a very strong bias in statistics. I'm also working on macroeconomics as well as another area in economics referred as visual econometrics. So for those who are actually working in BSc Econ and Stat, or those who are working in BSc Maths, or those who are working in BSc Education Mathematics, you kind of come across all these areas that I'm kind of related to. So yeah, so let me begin then by discussing some of the experiences that I've gone through. So just the other day when I was talking to Lucas about this issue about applying for scholarship and the whole process of getting funding, I was thinking about the best way to convey this message, and after careful thought, I think the best way that I could do this is by probably giving you an experience on how I went through the process, and perhaps also share some experiences where that I've heard from others as well, and then I'll try and link this to a few concepts that will be vital, might be trivial or vital with regards to your application. So let me begin. So the short story is that immediately after my undergraduate in 2015, I got offered a job in Cambridge as a medical statistician. So in about 5 months into my full-time job, I got a scholarship to study in the UK. So I actually got I got about 2 scholarships. I got something referred to the Chevening Scholarship, which I'm going to discuss much later on this. And then there's another one referred to as the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. I'll share some of these links with you. So I was a bit lucky, and of course the long story is that it's not just luck. It's also about going through a technical and a very torturous process of application, submitting applications, and you get rejections as well. So it's not really that not that rosy, not that rosy. Okay, I can see Lucas is okay. So okay, so one thing that I think is quite important is that when I got my scholarship through the process. So the first thing is that once I finished my university, I started applying for jobs as well as scholarship. I was doing this too in tandem, because I thought, if I can get a job, then would actually propel my career towards a given direction, and as well I could also apply for a scholarship, which would also develop me in terms of because I was keen on getting into academia. So from a very young age, I've always thought of being a professor. Sort of, it's a very funny. The whole idea is very funny because when I was still young, it didn't actually seem like a realization that I could actually get to. So that was my whole motivation of this application process. But then, so I was applying for jobs, and at the same time I was applying for scholarships, and it's quite a very torturous process for those who are already going out of the university. Some people take about 5 years to just get a job. Some people take even 10 years to kind of get a job. So it's a very torturous environment, because the labor supply is actually fixed, and the demand for labor is kind of increasing as we go on. And it gets to a point whereby everyone wants a job, but there are very few opportunities that you can get. So you either work at very low wages, or you basically just stay at home, which is, I mean, it's a system that you're already having in most African countries, and it's more about the economic system that you have to deal with. Again, these are things that at the moment might be beyond your comprehension, or might be beyond your purview or your control. But one thing that you could do is that if you could get a scholarship and do either your master's or do your PhD, then it could actually be one of an area that could open up other doors. Yeah. So I want to start with a very bad news to you, because we don't always like delivering bad news, but I'm going to deliver the bad news. Is that 80% of the time that you're going to apply for a single scholarship, chances are that you're going to miss it. Yeah. So the whole point is that if I'm applying for a scholarship, there are about 1 million or 1 billion students who have the same grades as you guys. So they have either first class, and they have either they've got an A in KCPE, they've got an A in KCSE. They have exemplary profiles because they've either worked for some company, so they have a profile that is quite exemplary. So chances are that if you're applying for scholarships, you might not get in. So it's not a guarantee that once you put your application, you're going to get it. And that's one of the things that I had to learn the hard way. It's the same thing with job applications. There's always this false sense of confidence, which of course is actually good, is that when you're applying for jobs, then automatically you are the best candidate for the job. But that's not the truth. That's not the true version of the story. The true version of the story is that there are a lot of people that are applying for the same positions, and some of them are better than you. Some of them you are at par in terms of skills and maybe in terms of educational level. So this is the bad story. Yeah, is that chances are that you might apply for it and you might not get it. Yeah, but again, there's another good story to this. There's another better version to this whole story. Is that if you can prepare yourself following some steps I'm going to give you, then it gives you a fighting chance. The whole idea is the whole point you're trying to kind of give you guys is that we are managing your expectations. We don't want to tell you that because you have a first class, then it's definitely guaranteed that you're going to get a scholarship. That's not true. Once you get outside of the university, you'll have to experience a real life, which is going to kind of be very difficult to deal with. And at times it costs a lot for your mental strength and perseverance. Yeah, because nothing is guaranteed. You have a first class. That's good. I mean, that's the first step. You have a first class, and that's a very impressive profile to have it within your academic background. But there's much more that is required for a student to get a scholarship, and more specifically for a merit-based scholarship. And it's not just based on your academic profile. So you'll have to do a lot of things that will kind of propel you towards that direction. Yeah. So I'm going to share. I'm going to kind of share a few of what I think are important for you to give you a fighting chance for getting a scholarship. Yeah. So number one, I'm going to list them as I go on. Yeah. So number one thing that I think is quite important is that you need to do a lot of research. You need to do a lot of research. And why is this important? Why is this important? Now, some of the scholarships that you're going to apply for, there's a lot of information already on the internet with regards to this scholarship. So there's the issues about eligibility, there's the issue about the type of funding that you can get, there's the issue about whether it's a merit-based scholarship, or it's a leadership-based scholarship, or it's a need-based scholarship. Yeah. And these scholarships at times they're not just based on merit. There are some scholarships that are based on your leadership career. For example, like the likes of Chevening Scholarship. Chevening Scholarship is an example of a scholarship that is mainly merited in terms of your leadership profile. So have you had any experience as a leader? Can you portray that into in an essay? They also merit-based scholarships, like I think the MasterCard Foundation is a merit-based scholarship. So if you have a first class, and you have a very impressive profile, then you can apply for a MasterCard scholarship, and you can get something from there. They also need-based scholarships. So need-based scholarships are those that are mostly geared towards a given community. So you'll find that I think like LSE and the university that I was in, so there's some scholarship that are actually based specifically for Kenyans, and maybe for the larger sub-Saharan African students. So you need to understand which scholarship you're going to apply for, and try and tailor your profile towards that. So if you're a leader, if you're someone who has already had a leadership training program, you have led some given groups or something like that, then I would advise you to kind of try and apply for a leadership-based program. So there's a chevening scholarship. If you have an impressive profile where you have a first class and you have those stellar A's that you are in your transcript, then you can apply for merit-based scholarship. So there's the MasterCard, there's the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, and there's a lot of them that you'll find on the internet. Yeah. One information that kind of cuts across in all of my discussion with other successful scholarship applicants is that if you don't do enough research, chances are that you're going to miss out. So you can imagine the first step, the first obstacle here is that you're dealing with other members, other students who already have an exemplary profile. So if you don't have an exemplary profile, then the only way in is to prepare yourself very well. So ensure that you have you have enough time to kind of look at what are the requirements, what is the scholarship vision and mission, because most of them are always stated that this scholarship is based on the following objectives or the following mission or the following vision. So try and kind of understand this before you apply. Don't go into a scholarship half burnt and half smoked. Yeah, as one of my friend always says. Yeah. And then number two that I think is quite important. So the number one, maybe to reiterate, is just do your research. Do a lot of research. Go into the internet, look at some of these scholarships, try and find if there are others who have actually applied for them and how they did it, which is quite important because it's a useful information once you start applying for these scholarships. Yeah. And then number two, which is quite important as well, is you need to make a lot of inquiries. Yeah, make a lot of inquiries. By making a lot of inquiries, I'm trying to imply here that you need to give the admission office some work. Yeah, don't assume that these scholarships are already there for you. Everyone wants them. So there are people from Nigeria, there are people from Ghana, people from South Africa who want the same scholarship as you. So if you're only looking at the pool of students that you have in a class, then I'm sorry to give you the bad news, is that that's not the case. So try and kind of do a lot of inquiries. Go through the university websites. So normally if you go into a university and you look for a program, let me give you a simple example. So for someone who has done a BCom and maybe you want to get into an MBA, so you, for example, you want to study in London or you want to study in Scotland, whichever place you want to study in. One thing I would advise you to do is that after doing your research, which is the first step, get into the university website and look at the admissions at the specific program that you're going to apply for. So if it's an MBA, just look at the program itself, look at the course outline. Does it give you a feel of what you need? Does it give you a feel of what you want to achieve? Yeah, and then make inquiries. So there's these admission emails that you can send as many times as possible. That is their work. Their work is kind of to help you in terms of preparation and in terms of getting an overall view of what the program entails. So make a lot of inquiries, send them emails, go through the university website, look at your course, and then look at the admission email. Send them emails, ask for questions. Yeah, what is the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is that maybe they won't maybe apply, they won't maybe reply for your email as early as you would expect. But at the end of the day, there's the good side of inquiring and not inquiring. So the famous quote, yeah, ignorance is a bliss. Yeah. So don't just sit on your don't just sit down and assume that they will do this. Also, and I think this is something that most of us Kenyans actually miss out on. And I'll give you this as an assignment that once you get out of this, or maybe as you're sitting, you can try and look at this. If you go through the Ministry of Education Kenya website, yeah, you'll realize that they have a scholarship page. That scholarship page has lots and lots of scholarship with given a timeline sort of over what you're supposed to, over how long you're supposed to be applying for it, and the type of funding that they can give you. So before you even go into international scholarships, just within the Ministry of Education Kenya, there's a list, a list of scholarships that you can apply for. So look at those scholarships and try and apply for them as well. You can send them an email. I'm not sure if they will reply, because I tried this a couple of times when I was still in my undergraduate, and apparently, for obvious reasons, the public system in Kenya, if you're sending emails to the Ministry of Education, it will take ages for it to be replied. So again, that is something that you can't control. But maybe you can take a trip to the Ministry of Education, because I think it should be in Nyayo House, not in Nyayo House, or Telposta Towers, which is I think in GPO. So if you're in Nairobi, just you're hanging around in town, just get into the Telposta Towers and ask them about scholarship that they're offering at the moment. So they'll give you a list of what is there, or they will refer you to the website. So I'd advise you to do that as well. Number 3, which I think is also very, very important, apart from making inquiries, is that, and these I always refer to as the law of large numbers. What do I mean exactly by law of large numbers? So for those who have done anything in start, or for those who have done gambling, those who normally do sport pesa, I remember some years back we used to do a lot of these bets just to get money. So the law of large numbers kind of tells you that the more attempts you make, the higher your chances of success. Yeah. So in other words, you need to apply for as many scholarships as possible. One of the things that I think kind of affected me once I finished my university was that I applied for one scholarship and I placed all my hopes in that one scholarship. And when the rejection letter comes, you get blown out of proportion, because you don't really understand what is happening. And it's because you're trying to apply for a lot of scholarships at the same time. You're trying to apply for one scholarship and you're putting all your hopes in that one scholarship, which is a very, very bad idea. It's the same thing that applies to job applications. If you're applying for job applications, and I think this is something that you can carry along in other areas of your life, don't just have a plan A alone. Have a plan A, have a plan Z. Yeah. So have a lot of this. Make as many applications as possible, just to increase the chances of success. If you apply for one, I'm telling you, chances are that you might not get it. And of course, when I actually came here and I was finishing my master's, this is one of the things that kind of pushed me towards the right direction. So I was applying for my PhD, and the system here is that once you finish your master's, you're given some time to kind of either look for job, or you can apply for research funding. So PhD scholarship is actually quite competitive, because you can imagine you're applying for PhDs, and you're applying for a PhD scholarship, and you're competing against guys who finished in Cambridge, guys who finished in Oxford. So these type of universities that we call the Russell Group of universities is an equivalent of the type of universities in the US, which is called the Ivy League schools. So in the UK we call them the Russell Group of universities. So applying for scholarships under Russell Group of universities is quite competitive, because everyone wants this scholarship, and they're coming from different backgrounds with different expertise, and some of them have experience either in research or just working within very big organizations. So competing is quite complicated and it's quite competitive. One thing that can actually set you apart from the crowd is making as many applications as possible. Yeah. So don't just apply for one and then wait for everything to happen, and sit down and go to church and pray. Those prayers are quite important, but you also need to do as much, to put as much effort as possible. And that effort comes in terms of application. This is the time. One question I normally ask students is that you have enough time. I mean, the time that you take to watch a Netflix series that takes about 2 days, you could apply for 20 scholarships at that time. Yeah. So you could basically use this time to apply. And the thing is that I have a very young brother who have always tried to kind of motivate to apply for this scholarship. And so I think just in the year 2017, he tried applying for the Chevening scholarship and he didn't get it. So he was very disheartened. and felt, downstricken. So he told me that, there's no need for me to apply for this scholarship because anytime I make an application, I don't get them. And I was trying to have this conversation with him because he's a very tough-headed guy. Is that you can't just really apply for one and expect everything is going to happen on your side, because you're not only competing against Kenyans. Of course, at times maybe you're competing against Kenyans, but even if you're competing against Kenyans, how many are we in terms of population? How many students are finishing university? I mean, the University of Nairobi in Bicom alone has about 1,000 students. Yeah, Chuka about maybe 500. So you can imagine you're competing against a pool of students just within a very small sample, which is quite high. So you need to make as many applications as possible to kind of increase the chances. Yeah, guarantees. There are no guarantees here. It's more of a poker game. There's a part of luck and there's a part of also your profile. So you have a first class, which kind of puts you on a given pedestal. But again, also you also need to apply for as many as possible to increase the chances of success. Yeah, because you're competing against all the others that are sitting now here. You're competing against Lucas, who finished his university in 2015, has gone to work in very big organizations. So you can imagine you're competing against him, and you've only finished in university. Chances are that you might not get it. You might be the person that will be picked. So I'd advise you to always try and expand your pool of application. Yeah, expand your pool of application. Number 4, prepare your essays earlier. So universities have certain requirements. So you'll find that there's a list of requirements that you need. You need to either write an essay. So it could be either be a personal statement, or it could be a motivational essay, or it could be a leadership essay that kind of reflects your leadership profile. Yeah. So you need to understand if the essay they're supposed to write and start early. I know there's always this aspect of, I don't have to do it now because I'll do it much later and I'll do it much better. That doesn't always happen the way we expect. So I would advise you to try and make these applications earlier. Even recommendation letters. If I'm asking for recommendation letters from my supervisors or from my lecturers, so try and send them emails much earlier. If I'm having an application that is going to be submitted in September, I should start making a rapport with my lecturers. Ask them about their opinions with regards to master that you're going to do or application that you're going to do. Ask them if they are ready to offer you a recommendation, because recommendation letters is actually very, very important as well. Just apart from this essays, recommendation letters are also very important, because if you don't get a good recommendation letter, then chances are that they can't really trust you. I mean, you are a good student, but then no one knows you. So you need to have very good recommendation letters from either your employers, where you have gone for attachments, or you have gone for internship, or where you're working at the moment, or just from your lecturers. So try and create this rapport. Be social. Talk to your lecturers. They're not really lions, so they cannot devour you. Just talk to them and get a perception on what they think about you and your performance as well. Yeah. So that's very important. In the writing of the essays, and I think I can't emphasize this more, is that apart from writing it earlier, don't just sit on your essay. Share it with your friends. Share it with your friends, whether they're in high school, whether they're in secondary, whether they're in college, or some of them are working. Share it with them. And there's a method of madness to this. So the more you share your essay applications, the more feedback you get from them. And this feedback that you get from different friends or family members, you can now always structure your essay in such a way that kind of reflects those corrections that you receive from them. So try and send them to as many friends as possible. I didn't do that for my time, because partly because I didn't know any other person who had already received a scholarship. I was actually working, going into a green field. But I've discussed a lot with some of my friends who have been successful applicants in other scholarships, and one of the things that they always did, and which worked for them, was trying to share their essays with as many friends as possible. This peer reviewing process is very important. Yeah, so I'd really emphasize on that. Number 5 that I think is quite important as well is how to deal with rejections. Yeah, and I can tell you this for sure. you are going to get a couple of rejection emails, whether you're applying for jobs or you're applying for scholarships. It happens a lot. You're going to get a lot of rejection letters, either emails or letters if they're going to send you letters. It happens a lot. So what you need to do is that you need to really manage expectations. Yeah. So whenever you're applying for scholarship, and this doesn't actually mean that you give less than 100%. When I say manage expectations, I don't mean that you go in lackluster and make an application that doesn't really give you a fighting chance. What I'll tell you is that apply, give it as 100% chance as you can, make that application as perfect as you can, and then leave the rest to the world, yeah, or leave the rest to the panel, the scholarship panel, because they're going to decide your fate at the end of the day. And I think this happens a lot as well in job applications, because I've applied for jobs, a lot of jobs around when I was still in my undergraduate. And one thing that I also realized that once you get to a point where you start getting rejection emails, there's always this psychological effect that comes that you just stop applying for jobs. I know of a lot of friends that I've talked to that applied for 500 jobs and got rejection emails for each of those jobs, or they applied for more than that and they never got any reply. It happens. The world is very unfair, but we have to deal with that unfairness at times. Yeah, it's something that we can't really control. For those who have done economics, it's called an observable factors that you can't really control. So what I would tell you is that do the best you can on your side, and then leave the rest for the person who's going to decide your fate. So it could either be the scholarship panel, or it could be the interviewers in the job. Yeah. So these are things that you need to know. And then lastly, before we go to maybe a Q&A, is that you also need to check on if they require any standardized tests. So I think I heard about these ones. DM Moshimura was talking about GRE and GMAT. Now, some universities do require GRE, some universities require the GMAT test. So you need to know which universities require these and try and prepare yourself earlier. They're actually quite expensive as well. Some universities actually have exemptions. So I'll give you a list. I'll give you maybe a top of the mind. I think Manchester University, University of Manchester, and the University of Leeds, and the University of York, they actually exempt you from doing a GRE and a GMAT. So you need to know, go through, and this goes back to what I told you. You have to make a lot of inquiries. Ask the admission panels, the admission committee, the admission. Send an email to the admission and ask them if they require these standardized tests. Yeah. Another one is the language requirement test. Yeah. So language requirement test requires you to. So for the UK, most of the universities require you to do an IELTS test. It's called an IELTS UKVI. Yeah. Which is quite expensive, because I think the last time my friends were taking it, I didn't take it. The last time my friends were taking it was about 35K, if I can remember, around 30 or 35K. So you can imagine if you're just finishing university, you have loans to pay because you're only given a grace period of 1 year. You don't even have a job. It's quite difficult to just jump into some of these things. So what I'd advise you, try and be smart in terms of application. Look at universities that do not require you to maybe supply an IELTS test, and that also goes back to the inquiry. Ask them if you're exempted, and the exemptions come in different forms. So for those who have actually done KCSE, and this is something that actually happens a lot in the UK, for those who have done KCSE and you've scored, I think, a B and above in your English exam in the English section, I think a lot of universities exempt you from submitting an IELTS test, but that also has to be within the first 2 years of finishing your bachelor's degree. Because if you apply after 3 years, then the KCSE results become redundant. Yeah, so if you apply as soon as possible, maybe after 2 years after finishing your undergraduate, then you are in a good chance within that 2 years to kind of to fall in the exemption list of the IELTS test. Yeah. For those who another thing that you can also do is that you can also send an email to Chuka University. I think the admission office does write a lot of letters that kind of show that your course was mainly taught in English, because They don't want most of the universities here do not want you to come in and then you have a problem understanding comprehension. You have a problem communicating your ideas to the rest of the students and that. So you need to kind of understand if there are exemptions. If there are exemptions, what kind of exemptions are there, and do you fall within the category of exemptions? Yeah. So you need to understand that quite well. I don't know if I have much more. I mean, I have a lot of to say, but I think it would be much more interesting if I could, maybe get questions from you and take this discussion much further. Extend it to whichever direction you want me to. So, Livingstone, if you can hear me, please let me know if they have any questions so far with regards to any of the things that I've mentioned. Maybe something else that I might have forgotten to talk about. I know most of you are trying to apply for a master's scholarship. Yeah, for those who are trying to apply for a PhD scholarship, it's either there's the PhD or there's another one called the MPhil, or there's the Masters in Research. Yeah, so there's the MRes, the PhD, and the MPhil. So if you're trying to apply for these scholarships, one thing that they will require you to submit is a research proposal. It's always very daunting how to write a research proposal, but a lot of this information is always online. Even within the admission, if you go through any university's website, they'll tell you a research proposal contains the following features. So you need to have this and this and this. To try and do a lot of this research, go through the website, understand what they require, and then make an application tailored towards that description that they've already given you. So it's that simple, but it requires a lot of your commitment. You need to get your hands dirty, make as many applications as possible, and pray as well. Yeah, go to church. There's always divinity in everything. Yeah, so the more you pray, the better your luck. Yeah, or your chances. Yeah. So that's me. And I think yeah. So if you have any question, please just shoot them to me, and then I'll try and answer them. Thank you. Livingstone, please.
Mustapha, thank you very much for the wonderful discussion with our students here. There are a number of questions here you can answer, and maybe I'll start from the ones on the chat.
Okay.
Let me see a question here. Somebody's asking you share the scholarship links as well. Probably you will be able to do that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So that's from Tibet. You share the links. Yeah, you can share the links. Then should our students have questions, I think they can be able to follow up in a question here. Although I'm seeing comments, and we are feeling good generally for what you have shared with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you asked me something about job application. So currently, universities in the UK, they have changed the system where so normally once you finish your masters, is that you have about 3 months to get about, I think, 6 months, about 6 months to get a job. Otherwise, your student visa gets expired, and then you have to go back home. So currently, they have a different system. So for those who are doing a master's, if you're coming to do a master's in 2021 and you're graduating in 2022 or 2021 in summer, you have 2 years. So once you finish your master's, you have 2 years to kind of get a job, which is quite a good time to kind of sort yourself out. So there's a new visa route that has come into place, which is called the student route visa or the graduate route visa, which allows you 2 years for a master student. For those who have finished PhD, you have about 3 years to kind of get a job. Yeah. It kind of increases your chances. And then with the whole Brexit thing, the UK now being part of its own, not being part of the EU, it makes it interesting because if you're applying for jobs, then you don't necessarily have to compete against EU students. Yeah. One of the things that actually was very discouraging is that if you're applying for jobs in the UK, you'll find out that there's something they call the labor market requirement test. So the labor market requirement test requires that before they give you a job, then they have to find someone within the EU or within the UK who can do the same job as you. They don't have to have the same skills as you, as long as they can do the job. So at the moment, there's no that requirement. because of the Brexit thing. So thanks to the Brexit, it has its own negative aspects, but that is one of the positive aspects that most of us international students will actually take into account. So yeah, so that's a very interesting part that I could tell you. So if you're applying for over the next few months, if you think about applying for UK masters, then know that you already have 2 years apart from 2 years after your masters to get a job, which is enough time to do a lot of things. So you don't really have to show that you can survive, because it's already guaranteed that once you're here, then you're going to find ways of dealing with this, and a lot of jobs that you can do. I think one of the discussions that I had from Moshimua for the US airlift program is that once you get to the US, you can actually get a lot of jobs. It's the same thing with the UK. You could do a lot of jobs. So at the moment, I'm actually working as a doctoral fellow in Edinburgh, and I'm teaching undergraduate students so for some courses in economics and statistics. And it's kind of at times you don't have to look at your fund, because you kind of get some sort of living from this, which is called a maintenance fund. Yeah. So I'd encourage you a lot to apply for these scholarships. The UK is now becoming very attractive because of this new system where you can stay for much longer. Yeah. And of course, the economy is much different. Yeah. So, yep. Sorry, I saw some question. What are the common aspects that one should put in mind in applying for any scholarship? What are the common? So there are no fast hard and fast rules here. What I'd encourage you is try to understand the type of scholarship that you're trying to apply for. So and I'll tell you this for sure, if you know you don't have a first class, don't try and apply for a merit-based scholarship, because chances are that you won't get it. Yeah. So look at the scholarship requirements. Do they require someone? Do they have? So some of them will be very specific. They'll tell you that we require someone who has either first class or a second class upper. So if you have a second class upper or a first class, then that's your place to go. Yeah. Some of them will be very specific. They'll want maybe some years of experience. I think like just traveling scholarship. They'll require maybe to have about 2 years of experience, which in most cases for those who have actually just finished university, it's quite difficult to account for 2 years of experience unless you've worked part-time, or you've worked over a given number of years, and you have accumulated this number of years of experience. So that I'd encourage you to kind of understand the type of scholarship that you're going to apply for. Look at the type of funding that they're giving you. Is it full scholarship? Is it partial scholarship? Because partial scholarships may cover your fees, but living in the UK is quite expensive. I can tell you a house, the cheapest house that you can get, and I discovered this much when I was now coming to live in Scotland. The cheapest house you can get goes at around maybe 80k per month, and that is it's not one of what you'd refer to as a standard housing. Yeah, not as standard housing. So it's quite expensive to live here. So I'd advise you to kind of understand the type of funding. Is it partial? Is it full? If it is full, if it is partial, then do you have other means to top up the funding? So it could be either through bursaries, it could be either through maybe Harambes, fundraising through your other community. So to know all of these aspects, try and gather all these aspects before you apply. Yeah, and know your financial background as well. I for myself, I knew for sure that I could not apply for a partial scholarship and even go for it. I could not even fathom that kind of thought, because I knew very well that I didn't have that money, so I had to apply for a full funding. It was either full funding or no funding. Yeah, and I think within my first two applications, I actually got scholarships that were giving me around 50%, 50% scholarship, and it was 50%. But that is 50% of about maybe 5 million. I don't know where I can get 2.5 million for someone who has just finished university. It's quite expensive. So you need to kind of understand the type of scholarship and some of these features, like what are they going to offer you. So these are quite important. Yeah. Okay. Help us understand what a motivation letter entails, or rather than essay. Okay, that's a very good question. So a motivational letter, in its entirety, wants you to tell us about yourself. So in other words, you're trying to tell us yourself and what motivates you to study a particular program. So for those who are going for, let me give you a very basic example that I had. So for those who are going to study, for example, economics, you already have economic issues that you're facing in most emerging economies. You could tailor your motivational essay towards this kind of problem. So you tell them what you want to achieve at the end of the day. So do you want at the end of your program? So do you want to get into think tank programs? Do you want to be a leader into the community? What do you want to do exactly? So once you know this, it becomes easier to think through that. And motivational letters could be diverse. It depends on how you want to display personality. I mean, don't sell yourself short. And this also applies to job applications. And I've seen a lot of students, they send job applications and then because they don't want to show that they're actually really good, they undersell themselves. And it's the same thing with the application letter, with the motivation letters. Don't undersell yourself. If you're really good, please show us how good you are. Don't say, okay, I'm good, but you have this notion that you need to hold some parts of that that part of yourself out. Don't do that. Just please keep open and try and be as expressive as possible as you can. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you are competing against a multitude of students who are going to display some of these aspects. So you need to be well aware of this. Yeah. Okay. Someone is asking another question. Are there some of the scholarships which cover both masters and PhD? Yes. Very many of them.